thing.
How does that then inform an actual political strategy? I mean, when you say that Helen and others, and I think this is true, it's not just true for conservatives. I think it's true for liberals. People on this show know I'm a broken record on arguing that political affiliation is an identity, and it's wrapped up in other identities, but our core political identities are red and blue, Republican, Democrat. But to take seriously that people's voting is driven by their identity and environmental context, what does that mean in terms of reaching them? I think a lot of folks who have had a view that American politics is about persuasion are beginning to learn that's really not true. That persuasion is often not on the table, but is certainly not on the table in terms of just having a policy argument. So if you're trying to reach other voters, how do you do it when you're trying to cross over identities?
Optimistically, it means that you can reach more people than you think. I often think about the math, and I should compute the actual numbers, but there must be, just based on election results, a lot of people in our county who must have voted for Obama and Trump and Mike Pence and me. So that's one indication of how you can cut across kind of policy arguments or ideological fights in order to reach people. And in the 90s, the idea was ideological centrism. That's how you do it. You just split the difference with where the other people are. But I think what we're hitting on now is that there are other terms for reaching people that really some of it's affective, some of it's values. To me, a lot of politics, just like a lot of life, has to do not so much with how people feel about you. Or rather, let me put it this way. How people feel about you is largely driven by how you make them feel about themselves. And everybody's in kind of a complicated relationship with themselves. And we can have some influence on that. And so if we have a politics that builds people up, that makes them feel stronger and more secure, it will also tend to make them feel more open-minded and forward-looking and big-hearted. Just as if you have a politics of resentment, it can make people more closed, more inward-looking, and I would argue more politically conservative.
I really want to hold on that idea for a minute because it seems very important to me. I mean, my read of the identity literature is that if you take it seriously, the fundamental question people ask about politicians is not, is this person going to improve my material well-being, but is this person going to raise or lower my status and my group status? And one of the things that has happened in American politics is that as the groups have become more tightly clustered around each other into two very big and very well-sorted coalitions. On the one hand, that answer has become much clearer, and it's also become much then harder for somebody who's in the other coalition or is seen that way to seem like they're raising your status because it's being mediated through, Fox or MSNBC or whatever else. So how do you do that? How do you, in a very conflictual political atmosphere where a lot is about drawing distinctions and mobilizing your own base in particular,
right,
how then do you assure other people that for you to win, it's not going to lower their status. It's not going to mean that their group suffered a loss and their group is falling behind in what feels to many people like a zero-sum competition for respect in American society.
Right. Well, that analysis is if we're thinking about this in terms of what's going to happen to the status of my group, the natural question that follows is which group, right? And I think part of what good politics does is it puts us in the biggest possible group.